Assalamu alaikum. My name is Jasia Tahmid Hassan. I am a Bangladeshi American Muslim, which means I carry three identities: a Bangladeshi identity, an American identity, and a Muslim identity. Now, all my life, I've struggled to balance all of the aspects of who I am. I remember school lunches in particular. Well, I remember dreading them. All my friends would bring their cute little Lunchables, PB&J sandwiches, apple slices, and I would bring my Tupperware filled with last night's ethnic dinner. So there would be roti, dal, bhat, chicken curry, and I remember everyone would give me strange looks. They'd inch away. Some people would even move entire tables just to get away from my curry stench. And then I would go to my mom and I would complain every day. I'd beg her to stop packing me all this ethnic food. I'd beg her to stop putting coconut oil in my hair. And I'd beg her to stop dressing me in these traditional clothes that she thought were beautiful. I just hated how much my heritage and my cultural background showed when I went to school. On really bad days, I'd even feel like a freak show, like an object that was in a glass display that everyone would stare at because it was so different. So, suffice to say, I really struggled with my Bangladeshi identity. Now, being Muslim is also a really important part of who I am. And I'm really proud of this aspect, but it wasn't always like that. I grew up quite sheltered like most little kids. So before middle school, I didn't really know what the real world was like. I didn't know that the Taliban existed. I didn't know that Al-Qaeda was a thing. I didn't know that there were people out there in the world that twisted Islam's meaning to fit their own greedy and violent agendas. So I remember when I was in 7th grade, on one particular 9/11 anniversary, my class had a 9/11 documentary viewing just so we could understand what this day meant for us Americans. And for a lot of us, this was the first time we were exposed to this kind of reality. It was terrifying, it was heartbreaking. But for me in particular, every time I heard the word Islam, or every time I heard the word Muslim extremist, I would just go inside of my shell. I would try to hide. I've always been a very outspoken Muslim because that's what I was taught to be. I was taught to be outspoken. But that day, I just wish the ground would have opened up and just swallowed me whole because I was so embarrassed. And every time I heard words like Islam and Muslim extremists, I could hear people whispering and looking back at me. And even though I couldn't hear them, I could just imagine what they were saying. And I imagined that they thought I was like the people in that documentary and that they thought I followed those same falsely Islamic beliefs. And those fears were only confirmed when I left that classroom later that day. There were some boys who were waiting in the hallway as I was leaving, and it was pretty empty because everyone had already gone down to lunch. So as I went down, I was alone. I was gonna put my books away in my locker, and the three of them basically ganged up on me, looked down and called me a terrorist and started yelling slurs like that at my face. And looking back, I wish I had stood up for myself and said something, but at that point in my life, I wasn't very educated in these things. I didn't know what to say, and at that point, I almost believed what they were saying, so I just stayed silent and ran away. It was a terrifying moment because at that time, I almost wanted to believe them, and I thought that I was a villain, and I thought that I was that person and those people that were in the documentary. It made me start to question my faith and made me question everything that I was taught from a young age. So these two identities, my Muslim identity and my Bangladeshi identity, were ones that I really struggled with. So to cope with this struggle, with this very visible struggle, I decided to adopt my easiest identity yet, which was my American identity. I became accustomed to American norms. I surrounded myself with my American friends, American people, American food, American culture. It was just easier that way. If I was able to forget how to be Muslim, if I could just forget how to be Bangladeshi, then I would belong. That was my logic. I thought that if I could get rid of those two identities and become American, I would belong. But in the process of letting go of those two other identities, I lost so much. I lost the beauty of my mother tongue, Bangla. I lost our beautiful culture, our beautiful history, and our delicious food. Even though it was still very much curry scented and very smelly, it was still the food that I grew up with. And when I forsake being Muslim, I lost direction, I lost faith, I lost my reminder to strive to be a better person every single day. When trying to make myself less of an outsider, I lost my roots. What I learned is that a lot of us juggle multiple identities, whether it be our nationality, our heritage, our religion, but these identities are crucial in making you who you are. You can't just forsake one in order to fit in well. You can't just forsake one because society has taught you to be afraid or ashamed of it. Your differences make you rich. They make you unique and part of a diverse tradition. It gives you roots in histories, which in many ways shape your character, and they connect you with people who have shared and won your same struggles. So yes, I'm Jasia Tahmid Hassan. I'm not just Bangladeshi, I'm not just American, and I'm not just Muslim. I'm all three. I've embraced them, and I hope that if you learned anything from this video, you can learn to embrace all your identities as well. Thank you.